The following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.
He's back. No, not Johnny Carson. That's not Mr. McMahon introducing Johnny Carson. The old man's back in the saddle again with the gracious help of Mr. Lloyd Kirby. Wanted us to little bit of expression to the appreciation to the Christian homes out there. Some of us have a little stumble once in a while, and we get a little sick. They take good care of us. So I doff my hat in the direction of the administration of the Christian homes. Lloyd, we have a man who's anxious to talk with us about his profession, and unfortunately, the needs for somebody in his profession they're there. So why don't you introduce our guest this morning, sir?
All right, so joining us today is Mr. Lee Funk. He's a advisor with the Both Hands Financial Group. So, Mr. Funk, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
As we were talking about before we went on the air, why don't you just give the listeners a sense of what it is you do first before we delve into the specifics?
Okay. As an advisor with Both Hands Financial Group, we basically help you plan your retirement using safe income methods that you might not consider otherwise. We can kind of help you protect from taxes, inflation, market risk, and even healthcare issues. We fully understand your retirement picture, and we'll work with our clients on an individual basis because we recognize that financial planning is individual. There's no cookie cutter approach to financial planning, and everybody's situation is unique and different. So that's what we try to accomplish when we sit down with our clients.
And so suppose a client comes in and says, hey, I'm nearing retirement age. What process do you go through to kind of make those determinations of maybe what the providing information for that client?
We sit down and take a look at what their current assets and liabilities are, what they're looking to accomplish, in the future, what kind of lifestyle they want to live, how much risk are they wanting to take by keeping their money in investments, how much money they want to protect. There's ways you can do that through other products. There's a lot of controversy in the financial world, what's adequate or what's efficient. We sell fixed index annuities, and we sell life insurance as a form of supplemental retirement income that other people might not consider. Again, I encourage you to take a look at your own current situation and see what's best for you. We're just here to kind of help guide you and let you know that those vehicles are out there, because there's all kinds of retirement tools in the shed. You just want to make sure you get the right ones to do the job for you, and that's kind of what we're here to do.
Now, Mr. Funk, when the market, volatile as it is, jumping up and down and around, do people get a little bit concerned about their retirement? And I say they've got 401ks. I've heard say, well, I'm going to take my 401k and go somewhere else. Well, they need some expert advice on that. There's a lot of not necessarily mistrust, a lot of misunderstanding about the financial world out there. And of course, when they see the Dow Jones go up $200 or down $400, people get a little excited about that.
That's a very good question, Mr. Gossett. As far as the volatility of the market, that's always been there from ever since the stock market was implemented. You see your ups, you see your downs. Historically, you can expect to see gains. You just kind of have to write it out. Now, I'm not here to provide financial advice. It's just a matter of what kind of level of risk is acceptable to you when determining a financial plan. I do hear that a lot. It's like I have a couple clients that say that my financial advisor tells me not even to look at my statement because 2022 has not been a good year. So again, what Both Hands Financial does is takes a look at how you're contributing to your 401ks, your IRAs, and we can help you maybe reallocate or reposition some income into other sources to provide that stability or balance out your portfolio. Something that people might not consider is even the bond market. That's generally your safe income, right? That's what people draw on before they start, usually utilizing their principal in their investments. You can actually, what our firm can do is show you how you can reallocate or reposition that money in your bond portfolio into life insurance or annuities to provide certain guarantees that the stock market can't. Because ultimately, I believe the key to a successful retirement is having enough income to pay for your guaranteed expenses, your rent, your mortgage, utilities, your car payment if you have one. Just all those essentials. I think you should have enough saved up to pay for those expenses, and then everything else, like in the market, would be like your play money. Stuff that you can afford to lose. So you kind of have your essentials and your non-essentials, and just kind of go from there.
Mr. Funk, you represent a group called Both Hands Financial Group. What is the derivation of that name? What is the origination of Both Hands Financial Group?
Glad you asked that question, Mr. Gossett. Both Hands Financial Group is a group that was founded by Corey Carlton and Don Meyer. In 2006, both of these individuals were on a mission trip to Moldova, and they were there to help out widows and orphans. I don't think they were connected, like in any church group or whatever. They just happened to randomly meet. Mm-hmm. One was a registered investment advisor, and the other one was an insurance professional. And so they just kind of collaborated together, and it's like, hey, you do investments, I do insurance. Why don't we combine our knowledge together and form Both Hands Financial Group? And so that's how that came about. One hand for investments, one hand for insurance. And we're here to show you how those two can work together to help optimize your retirement portfolio. So now they have like the foundation, the Both Hands Foundation, where they contribute to Moldova and helping widows and orphans in that community.
So it has nothing to do at all with the state of Illinois as far as advice is concerned.
That is correct.
648-5510. Our guest this morning, Mr. Lee Funk. He's here to talk to us about the most basic of all needs here in Lincoln County. A lot of folks, it's pretty sophisticated. It's a very sophisticated world out there with when you handle your money, even as much as $100. And that can go away in a hurry if you're not careful about that. One of the things that Mr. Funk and I had discussed off air before we came live on the air this morning was a matter of advising people who have difficulties handling their money. And that's a daily experience out there. The way I base my opinion is when I leave the station on Wednesday mornings, I go by the Holy Family church there, and they have the family pantry there. Carolyn Webster has done such a great job down through the years administering that. And you go down the street just a couple of blocks, and we go to the Lincoln-Logan pantry there on Logan Street, and you immediately know there's a lot of need out there. One of the things that must be very frustrating is the prevalence of opportunities for people to gamble their money away. I speak now of the slot machines and so forth. They have the prevalence of them anywhere. That kind of somebody who's maybe not terribly sophisticated, and there are a lot of them out there in that category, that may be a weak link, because somebody will say, "Oh, gamble $10, and if I make 20, I'll be in good shape." Well, that $10 goes in a hurry. Because they're not very sophisticated in how they. Matter of fact, there's not a thing that's sophisticated about playing the slot machines at all, Lloyd. They're there to take your money. That's one of the things I think the state of Illinois is wrong in. They have a tremendous income as far as gambling is concerned. And the other side of that coin is that a lot of people gamble away money that they can ill afford to lose. That has to be a difficult. How do you converse with a client who's talking with you and seems to have a penchant for gambling their money away?
Oh, that's a tough one, Mr. Gossett. It's as an advisor, I just think that there's other places you can be putting that money. Obviously, I think the mentality is, I'm going to strike it rich. Yeah. And I think the same attitude goes with, when you put your money in the stock market. Now, I'm not saying investing is bad. I feel like you need to work with the right, have the right people in place to help you make those financial decisions. But it's kind of like gambling. I mean, because the market, there's no guarantees. So you kind of need to, have a diversified portfolios. Advisors will talk about. Just a matter of the level of risk you're wanting to accept. Now, you can do that through real estate. You can do it through bonds. You can do it through stock market. You got your 401ks, your IRAs, or even, own and operate in your own business. I mean, there's lots of opportunity out there. It's just a matter of what suits you and the level of risk you're willing to assume.
648-5510. Feel free to call in, Mr. Lloyd Funk. This is a very sophisticated subject we're talking about this morning. Arithmetic 101 when we were in grade school was pretty basic. Well, it's still Arithmetic 101 today. And a lot of people just need a little extra help. And you have to find somebody who's amenable to listening to you. That's the other problem.
Definitely. It's just, as advisors, it's frustrating because with the age of the internet, there's so much information out there, and it just gets crowded. It's like, I don't want to be the advisor that's hounding you. You need life insurance, you need this, you need that. I just want to be the advisor out there that says, hey, this is what I have available to you. Let's walk you through it and see what works for your situation. It's up to you at that point to make that decision. I mean, do I make a commission? Yes. But ultimately, that's not my goal. My goal is for you to live out your goals and dreams according to how you see fit. And part of that is, if you want to retire like a millionaire and, spend like a millionaire, then let's go there. But if you want to retire simply and, enjoy your kids and family, well, let's set an income like that. Because chances are when you're set to retire, your lifestyle is probably not going to change much from when you were working. You're not going to go all of a sudden from middle class to a millionaire unless you win the lottery or something like that. But
that guy's going to jail. You can kiss him goodbye.
But what we're finding out is, like, if you're middle class or whatever income bracket you happen to fall in, you're not going to transition far away from that. You're not all of a sudden going to go on luxurious safaris and whatnot. Technically, when you transition to retirement, you're going to live primarily the lifestyle that you had before, because that's what you're accustomed to and that's what you've done all these years.
So how then, if people come to you and they are middle class, for example, how do you kind of look into the future and decide, okay, this is your lifestyle now, this is what you want it to be, into your retirement years? How do you kind of plan for that as far as looking at the finances, the way, for example, in the past few years, prices have shot up and fuel has changed and things like that. Is there taking any of that into consideration, and how do you work that into the equation?
That's a very good question, Mr. Kirby. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what's going to happen 30, 40 years down the road. All we can do is, use data based on what history has provided. So we take in consideration, generally speaking, inflation has been averaging about 4% a year over year. Obviously, this year it's a little bit higher. We're hoping with regulatory measures that kind of comes back down to some sort of normalcy. But we'll take into consideration that utilizing a common rule of 72, a lot of financial planners will utilize. Basically, that says you take an interest rate and divide it, or take the number 72 and divide it by an interest rate, and that's how long you can expect prices to double. So given, let's say a 4% inflation rate, take 72 divided by 4 and you get 18, right? So you can expect 18 years, the income you might need today, 18 years later you're going to need double that. So if I'm planning on $50,000 today that I need to sustain my family, 18 years down the road I'm going to need $100,000 to keep up with inflation. So that goes into consideration. What also goes into consideration is how you are saving, which is huge, huge, huge. The government has taught us that with pensions, unless you're lucky enough to work for a municipality, state, federal, or some rare company that happens to still offer a pension, those are non-existent. What we've gone to is self-directed 401ks that we've talked about before. And this is important for people to realize is it's not tax-free. It's tax-deferred. So what that means is you're delaying the tax, you're only postponing your taxes. So I'm saving money today for the next 30 years. I'm delaying all those taxes for 30 years. What's going to happen is if I need to start taking money out of that 401k that I have that's been tax deferred all this time, I'm going to be paid taxes on not only what I contributed, but what that account has gained. So you can imagine over the course of time how much money that's going to be. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable with, you know, tax rates being the same as they are today.
Right.
We can bet on that.
You know, considering all the programs
farm.
out there and just the national deficit, it's highly likely you're going to be in a higher tax bracket than you are, you know, or tomorrow than you are today. So, for example, I mean, just imagine if I need $50,000 worth of income, let's just say, and I'm in a 30% tax bracket, that's $15,000 out of that, you know, $50,000. So really, that's $35,000.
We juggle high finances right here in this studios. We have what's known as sponsors. And if we don't take a couple of seconds to acknowledge them, we may not have a job ourselves. Go right ahead, Joe. Back live in the studios here, station WLCN, out here on what is that county road down at 2250?
I believe so.
All right. Well, we have moved. We're stay in the same place. Our guest this morning, Mr. Lee Funk, financial advisor for Both Hands Financial Group. Handling your money today is a pretty sophisticated thing. And if you don't think so, just turn on your TV and see how gullible people can be. Some of the biggest names that we've known have bitten hard from a guy who took a huge bite out of there, and of course affected him forever. There's a lot of sentimentality about sentimentality. I get that word right, Lee. About how to handle our money, and it's the most basic thing in the world we do. A lot of us need a little help. We got to plan for the future, and that doesn't mean the next 2 weeks down the road. Mr. Funk is here to help folks make decisions about how to handle their income. And I want you to feel free to call in, 648-5510. There are no dumb questions. He may give you a dumb answer, but there are no... No, seriously, handling money is the most basic thing we do, and some people need a little extra help on that. And with regard to that, I'd like to take my hat off to the food pantries we have here. I mentioned earlier on as we came on the air this morning, a Holy Family Food Pantry, which does a tremendous job. And right down the street on Logan Street, we have our food pantry there, which is always busy every week. A lot of need out there, folks. And just as much as there's a need for food, there's a need to know how to handle your money. And that's what Mr. Funk is here to help advise you. If you have any questions, as I say, seriously, feel free to ask him. He'll give you the best advice he knows how, and if he doesn't, we'll turn the door on him. So Lee, how long have you been in this? That's a very sophisticated business you're in, sir.
I've been in the business, been a licensed insurance agent for five years now. I kind of got my start with Rick Cam when he was out of State Farm. Did a brief stint with him. I always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I just never really knew what I wanted to go into. It wasn't until after my dad had passed away from cancer where I really saw the value in life insurance. And so I'm a big advocate of it. I think something everybody should have, whether you're rich or poor, just because we just don't know what's going to happen in life. And it's going to be the only guarantee. Like, as long as your premiums are paid and as long as there isn't any kind of ill doing, life insurance will pay out. Yeah. So I watched how life insurance took care of my mom. She was able to retire from her job from the state of Missouri. She had her mortgage paid off. She had all debt paid off. I mean, my dad just took care of her.
Man.
He made sure.
He planned in advance.
Absolutely. And so as I was going through the process, I watched my mom she was able to retire. It's like, Mom, how did this happen? And she's like, life insurance. And so I was like, wow. So I got to thinking, when I became an advisor, it just opened my mind up to a whole nother world that's out there. It's like traditionally life insurance is, somebody dies, then, you get life insurance to bury them. It's life insurance goes way beyond that now. I mean, we've progressed from just not only providing a death benefit, but let's say, heaven forbid I get diagnosed with cancer years down the road. Life insurance can actually provide a benefit while I'm living to, fund, like if I get diagnosed with like a terminal illness that they'll call it, I can a lot of times get about 80% of my death benefit advanced to me. So if I want to go on a trip or just one last hurrah or whatever my needs may be, I can advance that portion of my death benefit and still have the burial benefit. A lot of people don't realize that. When you get to more advanced life insurance that I'm a big fan of, called Indexed Universal Life, which is market linked. It's not invested in the market. It's just your performance is tied to the market. So there's basically a zero floor. So it's like I can't lose money in it other than the cost of insurance. So if the market's flat, I don't lose anything. And the market gains, I gain up to a certain percentage based on the caps, which we can talk about another ball game. But the drawback is I'm not going to get the full market gain. So the market does 20%. I'm not going to get 20% typically. I might get like a cap rate of 12%, which is better than nothing. But at the same time, I'm not losing money. So I learned how life insurance can help in business succession planning. Because I'll tell you, Bill, I talk to a lot of business owners, here in Logan County, and they tell me the same thing. It's like, I started this business, and I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. And it's like, well, life insurance can play a vital role in that. Like, if you have employees that want to take over the business, you can use life insurance as a succession planning tool.
Sure.
You can use it for like an opportunity fund if I want to do real estate flips. If I've been contributing to my life insurance policy, why am I going to go to a bank and get a loan for like 8 to 12% when I can borrow from my cash value life insurance policy and pay myself interest? Because the money loaned out on your cash value life insurance still gets credited as though the money's there. So so when the opportunity comes up for me to buy real estate, if I have $50,000 in my cash value life insurance and I find a property for $20,000, I take $20,000 out, but I still get credit as though I have $50,000. Where else can you do that?
Yeah, well, handling your own income is the most basic, most sophisticated thing you can do. I mean, that's your future. And how you handle the monies that come through your hands is your responsibility and yours alone. And nobody else is going to make that decision for you. That's where you come in to somebody who might have a question as to what to do with X amount of money that they have suddenly come into, how to best invest that for their own benefit. Handling money is a very sophisticated thing, particularly in today's market. If you don't think so, turn on your TV every morning. No, but you're supposed to be listening to WLCN instead of that. But seriously, the market, volatile as can be. And some people can't spell the word volatile, but it's there. And it's an ever-present problem, ever-present decisions that we have to make, what we're going to do with the money we have available to us that particular day.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned about sometimes folks will come in with certain ideas, or maybe they saw something on TV or read a particular article or whatever. With all the information that's out there today with the internet and with the different cable channels and financial channels and so forth, is there one particular like myth or misunderstanding that maybe a lot of your clients seem to have that you spend a lot of time addressing, or is there so much information that different people come in with different different ideas of what they should or shouldn't do?
That's a great question, Mr. Kirby. I think one of the common myths is that a lot of people believe they're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. So let's talk about that for a minute. Like right now, that you might have lower income, but we can't predict what the tax rates are going to be. So that's kind of a myth in itself, because by the time you're retired, a lot of times you won't have your mortgage interest that you can deduct, hopefully, if that's your plan. You're not raising children, so you're going to have more disposable income. So there's a lot of factors that, and again, I'm not a tax professional, I'm not giving tax advice to anyone, but you have to really think about, am I really going to be in the same tax bracket now, or 30 years down the road, 20 years down the road, whatever your situation might be, as I am today? And giving the national deficit the way it is, and the government spending and everything like that, it's highly unlikely that I believe that you'll be in the same tax bracket. And taxes are going up in 2026. I did read an article the other day indicating that they are going up in 2026. They're changing the tax brackets. That's a given. So, I don't know what the adjustments are for that, but again, you have to start preparing for it. Sure. And one of the ways you can do is start thinking about the way you're saving today. Are you saving tax deferred, or are you saving where you're paying the taxes today? To me, it would make more logical sense to pay the taxes today than have to worry about it down the road. I'll take that gamble because I've already paid my dues. If I'm contributing, let's say $8,000, and I'm in the 30% tax bracket, I'd rather pay that 30% of that $8,000, every year over year for the next 30 years, and not have to worry about it when I retire. Because all that income, again, when you start taking distributions out, I'm no longer working typically, so I'm going to rely on that income. So every last penny I have is going to be important, and I certainly don't want it to go to the government. let's think about it this way. You have a mortgage. Would you sign on for a mortgage if, you found the perfect dream home, but would you sign on to a mortgage that said, you know what, we're going to charge you whatever interest rate we want year over year? Think about it. You probably wouldn't do that, no matter how much you like the house. Because one day, oh yeah, that's great, 6%. Next year, oh, we're going to charge 24%. That's what the federal government is doing to your retirement income. They're saying, we're going to let you postpone your taxes today. So whatever you're contributing, that 30% or whatever, you don't have to pay that. So over 30 years, let's say your tax liability was $2,800, $3,000, per year. That's only $90,000 over the course of 30 years. you start taking distributions from that, at 30%, and now your income's like $50,000 or whatever. How long is it going to take for you to, pay 30%? You're going to well exceed what you could have paid in taxes, down the road.
Well, nobody can take any stock in what those guys out there in Washington are going to do. That's a three-ring circus with those clowns, and that's a sad statement to make. But we send people out there to do jobs, and they get all imbued with a sense of self-importance, and first thing you know, they're not very valuable to us. And that's what's going on in the country today. 648-5510. Our guest this morning, Mr. Lee Funk, Both Hands Financial Group. Lee was here to help somebody if they have a question about what to do with the next $100 they get their hands on. And by the way, that's a trite statement to make, but still in all, it's true. $100 is a lot of money to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate, but that's the real world. And how we handle each $100 bill we get comes through our hands is up to us. Mm-hmm. And we may have a question or two, so don't hesitate to ask Mr. Funk a question. There are no dumb questions. He might not give you an answer you want to hear, but that doesn't make it a dumb answer.
That's true.
Go ahead, Lee.
Do you have, what's the most rewarding part of your job?
Telling somebody made a good a good decision.
I think the most rewarding part of my job is when the light bulb actually clicks and they get it. Because I think, probably in a former life, I probably should have been a teacher. I could say I'm a horrible salesman.
No,
but,
you're not.
But I mean, it's like I'm not like when it comes to sales, it's high pressure. For I guess manipulation and tactics.
That's not your bag.
No, that's not my bag.
Yeah.
My bag is to present the information in a clear and concise manner for you to understand it, and then make the best educated decision for yourself. I'll remind you, hey, you just kind of make sure that that's what you want, but I'm not going to sit here and force my opinion upon you, because my job is done once I've given you the information. It's what you do with it at that point that's up to you. I can't change everybody's minds, and I don't intend to, but the minds that I can open up to these new ideas and concepts, that's where I get my satisfaction and joy, is being able to, walk people through life and be a part of that, and knowing that, I'm working in their best interest to help plan their future.
Now, if somebody comes to Lee Funk with a question, they suddenly found $500, just to use an example, and they want to know what to do with that. Do you have sources for your information that you go to with Both Hands Financial Group to help advise somebody as to what they ought to do with that $500?
It's pretty simple, really. I mean, as far as, what to do with $500, I mean, I can't offer any kind of investment advice, but I do have, like, our co-founder, Don Meyer. He is a registered investment advisor. And then Corey Carlton, he's also a co-founder, and myself, we're insurance advisors. So Corey is more experienced in this field than I am, obviously, because he's been around the business longer and he's dealt with more clients. And so if I'm not sure with what to do, I will defer to Corey and Don, being the CEO and founder, because ultimately I want to act on what's your best interest. And given the fact that I cannot provide financial advice as where to put your money in the markets and whatnot, I can only advise you on products as to what I might fit your situation. There's a lot of great financial planners here in town too that I happen to know, and if you have investment questions, I'd be more than happy to defer you to them when it comes to those kind of things. But as far as my goal is to show you how you can protect your income. I mean, it's like I'm gonna take my keys out for a minute, and I've got an office key, I've got my house key, I got my car key. These are all things that can be replaced, but ultimately,
they've gone now.
Well, my keys are gone.
Yeah.
But if I drop the bucket, like my keys just hit the floor, that's lost income. How am I going to replace that? Now all of a sudden, my wife I have 5 kids at home. Now all of a sudden, my wife has dealt with the pressure of having to raise a household of 5 kids on one income. So when I design a life insurance for a family, it's based on income. You know, a lot of people is like, okay, what's your debt, and you go through that way. I take a look at how much income do we need to replace it, and how long do we need to replace it, so you can maintain the same standard of living as though, you know, our present. Because once I kick the bucket, you know, there's no more income unless I have life insurance. So that's another thing people really need to consider.
Well, that's one of the two sureties that we all understand is death and taxes. There's no way out of either one. And the first will be followed by the second. There's no question about that. Do you get many calls, Mr. Funk, for somebody who's in a conundrum and a quandary, not sure just what to do with their extra money that they have? If there is any extra money out there at all, for goodness sakes. That's pretty hard to come by.
That'd be a very good problem to have if I had people come to me with, you know, money that they don't know what to do with. But the practical advice I'm trying to offer people is, you know, just start making small steps today. I mean, you know, it's like just saving $100 here, $100 there can have, you know, a huge impact on your future. And to save $100 a month really, to me, doesn't mean really cramping your lifestyle. I mean, just start thinking with your day-to-day purchase decisions. Do I really need that $5 Starbucks coffee every day? Maybe I go from, you know, getting every day to every other day, you know, and start, you know, saving money that way. Because Bill, like probably about 40% of people don't even have an emergency fund.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that being said, you know, people would be sunk if a medical catastrophe or something were to hit their household. They'd be bankrupt within the first couple months because they don't have the essential, you know, emergency fund established.
I'm just passing the ball to you.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned emergency fund. Now that's something separate from planning for retirement. A different bucket to put your funds in, I guess. As far as, is there a recommendation as far as what is an appropriate amount for an emergency fund? Is it sort of a certain percentage of your income, or I've heard different rules like 6 months income or certain percentage of your income. Is there any sort of a guideline to that that's sort of universal in the industry?
Obviously, I think more is better.
Sure, absolutely.
But a lot of advisors at minimum would say you need 3 months. 3 months of like your living expenses saved up in a liquid account. You know, I would err on the side of caution, at least have 6, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You could be out of work for 6 months. You know, you could lose a job. You could have medical surgery. You know, just any number of things can happen. So having 6 months liquid would give you cushion. Now, Warren Buffett and a lot of other financial gurus will say you need to save 15% of your income. You know, so basically start budgeting as if you didn't have that 15% and put it away somewhere. Now the question is, where are you saving it? And that's, you know, a whole nother ball of wax. Obviously, you want to make sure your expenses are covered, your day-to-day expenses. Then you get your liquid emergency fund, you know, built up, about 3 to 6 months worth of liquid savings in a bank account. And then from there, you can kind of transition. It's up to you, you know, how you want to, you know, save your money. Again, I highly recommend saving tax or pay the taxes now. And there's ways you can do that through like a Roth IRA. Now, there are kind of drawbacks to Roth IRA, one of them being your contribution limits. There's a limit, or there's a reason why there's a limit on Roth IRAs as far as what you can contribute versus 401ks. Because the government knows that, you know, you're paying the taxes now, and so they're going to want to limit, you know, what you can contribute to keep you from saving tax-free. Versus, you know, I got not 100% sure what the contribution limits for 401k are, but like $22,500, I believe, if you're working, and then they have catch-up where you might be able to put in an additional $5,500 more for like a total contribution of $27,000 this year. So you can see the stark difference as to why they're letting you contribute so much more to a 401k, because they know they're going to get that back. You know when you start to take that out versus Roth. And with Roth IRAs too, what's interesting is that you can't make over a certain amount to be able to contribute to a Roth. So if you're a high income earner, where are you going to put your money that's tax free? And this is where, life insurance can help solve part of that complex problem of, I want to save money, I don't want to risk it, and get a moderate return and not pay taxes. Well, life insurance solves that problem.
There are many, many addictions out there in the market, not the least of which is an addiction for gambling. And that's just as serious as somebody has an addiction for liquor. The same situation that exists. It's going to get you. And they devise gambling for that purpose, to get your money. Mm-hmm. And everybody who has that worry, that concern, needs to understand that you're playing their rules. And ultimately, they're going to get your money. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that a person who has a gambling addiction needs to understand. It's about as basic as 2 and 2. Which, by the way, reminds me of a math professor I had in college who could sit there in college algebra 101 and prove to you on the blackboard in front of you that 2 plus 2 did not equal 4. And to this day, I have no idea, or Clarence Bailoff did that, but that was his shtick. His first class every semester, he would prove to his class that 2 plus 2 did not equal 4, and we all knew that was wrong. Right. But seriously, we're talking in a light manner about handling money, but that's one of the most serious things a person can do. Mm-hmm. And being able to resist an addiction is a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So if a person decides, hey, I do want to avail myself of your services, if they call you and make an appointment, how do things go? Like, do you start by kind of assessing where they're at now and where they want to be, or what types of information would they need to bring, or what types of questions might you ask of them?
Okay. Basically, what they do is, because I do have a full-time job, this is a part-time venture that I have. I am by appointment only. So what we would do is we'd have a consultation, probably about a half hour or so, where we sit down and look at where you're at today. If you wanted budgeting, tips or help, then we would, devise a budget and just kind of figure out where you're saving and how you're saving. I recommend, when it comes to saving, if you have a 401k, again, invest in your 401k. But I am of the opinion that you should not invest any more than what your company matches, because when you're doing that, obviously you're compounding your tax problem. But if your company's going to match you dollar for dollar or 75 cents to a dollar, you might as well take advantage of that free money. Mm-hmm. Because when you get later on down the road, when it comes to required minimum distributions, at age 72 you have to start taking distributions. If you've saved other ways, you won't need that income, so you don't have to worry about the taxes until you're 72 anyways, under current tax laws. So the more buckets of money you can have, that you're saving tax free, or where you're paying the taxes currently, is what I would recommend. So, we take a look at your situation, like, your income, your budget, where your assets are, where you'd like to go, how much income do you need to generate. Now, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but we can only kind of, estimate.
Sure.
But then that's why sitting down with a financial planner year over year to kind of make sure you're on track, this is where you're at, that kind of thing is important. I think when it comes to money, it's like, people might be embarrassed to talk about it, but yet I think at the heart of it all, we want to be better. It's like I want to do better for myself or for my family, mm-hmm. Than I was taught. And I think a lot of people think the same way. So by doing what we need to do is we need to educate ourselves, surrounding with people who have been successful, find out how they did it, what did they do. Reading books. I just gave away, Seth Goodman had a giveaway for Christmas. I gave 4 Wealth Beyond Wall Street books that kind of talks about some of the principles I follow when I educate people on financial matters. It's very alarming. And just kind of, reading books and just consulting with professionals in the industry.
All right. Well, if people are interested, how would they get a hold of you?
I have a Facebook page, Both Hands Financial Group, Lee Funky. You can email me at leefunky@gmail.com. My cell phone number is on my Facebook page. My current website is in development right now, so maybe looking for that here in the next few months, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I'm active on social media. You can go to www.bothhandsfg.com to read some of our blogs about retirement planning, and just when it comes to retirement planning and Medicare too. I mean, medical expenses, those are all going to come into play. And when it comes to like your income, it's your Medicare premiums are based on your gross income.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be in your best advantage to try and make sure that you didn't have as much taxable income, so you can save on your Medicare expenses down the road too. So that's another thing to think about when preparing for retirement.
Lee, thank you very much. We had our guest this morning, Mr. Lee Funk, representing Both Hands Financial Group, medical financial advisors. We have enough medical advisors out there, and they're going to be a little more than what your financial advisor is going to charge you. But we appreciate your taking your time and sharing your expertise with us. We wish you luck as you move out this door, sir.
All right, thanks.
The preceding program is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.